Adonde and Jones, Torrey and Ryan. Woo! Will there be enough show for you guys today? Let's see. Crazy Eights. Hard, cold truthiness.
Oh, yeah.
When new uniform attack. And 77 straight consecutive in a row. Do you believe it? We start with your thoughts on the news of the day. Aaron Hernandez found guilty of murder. Sentenced to life in prison without parole. This stopped being a sports story quite some time ago, Jay, but what's your reaction to today's news?
Legally, I was surprised that they got this verdict without the murder weapon and without a witness, but such as the times we live in when you do have all types of digital evidence that can help you get a conviction on circumstantial evidence. For the NFL, this coming on the heels of Lawrence Phillips being suspected of murdering his cellmate, it reminds you of the worst possible outcomes for these guys that enter the league with character issues. And I wonder if this is going to be a lesson to NFL teams going forward, or if they will continue to be seduced by the talent and be willing to overlook major red flags when they're evaluating these players.
Monty Jones?
Jay, I think that's a little bit unfair. Aaron Hernandez is the ultimate outlier. Failing drug tests at Florida wasn't going to tell you that he's going to be out here killing people. There was no way. I think it's unfair to the NFL to hold this one against them. The one thing I do think about this is, look, we know what there is to say about one who kills another. There's no need to get too particularly deep about that. But it's hard to avoid the tragedy of it when you think about his family. There's a woman who signed up for a life with him, who has had children with him, and everything they thought was going to happen, dreams they started to achieve financially, they never thought was possible. Now those are about to be gone. The money's going to be gone. The lawyers are going to get it, and you're at the end of a situation where there is not a single winner to be found.
Pablo Torre?
Yeah, Bo was emphasizing the humanity evident in the case, but the one thing that struck me was that I never actually got a sense of Aaron Hernandez's humanity, his vulnerability, to be specific, whether real or even superficially projected. From the way the case unfolded, the mountains of evidence, right? The recklessness, the idea, how could he think he could get away with this, to his behavior in the courtroom itself, where he was sort of mouthing to the jury, you know, you got it wrong, or he was even joking and smiling before the verdict was announced. Usually in cases like this, you begin to at least get a window into somebody whose life is hanging in the balance. He's going to jail with no parole, but I never even got a glimpse of that man, which was even weirder and more unsettling to me when you finally look back at all of it, how it happened.
And Bob Ryan?
We all agree, five of us, that there's no way any of us can get inside the head, the mindset of someone who would throw away all that he had at his feet for reasons that are inexplicable, and that he was still such a prisoner of a lifestyle and a mindset that he would ruin his life in this manner. The thing that I keep coming back to as a little subplot is the idea that the New England Patriots en masse spent an entire season after this fatality in the company of a man who may have murdered as many as 3 people, because he's going to go on trial for 2 more murders before this is all over in Boston. It just creeps me out. Did it creep any of them out to think about that? It's just amazing.
Sure, these are questions you can certainly ask, right, Bob? I mean, this team moved on from this. Clearly, they won a Super Bowl playing football, but entirely different. How can you move on from something like this? Adonde, real quick.
Well, that's the thing, Bob and Bo, is that there were earlier alleged shootings, and they continue to have him under their employ. Either they were unaware or didn't choose to make themselves aware of what this guy was up to.
It's impossible to transition from something like a murder trial verdict to sports. But we will nonetheless, because that's why we're here. And to tonight's NBA schedule, where there's 4 teams for 2 playoff spots, and Russell Westbrook was asked if he was rooting for the Spurs. You see his reaction? Bomani, Pelicans or Thunder, Pacers or Nets? Who you got?
All right, I'm going to go with the Pelicans. I know the Spurs have something to play for, but I think the Pelicans have that game at home. The Thunder have to win, and the Pelicans have to lose for the Thunder to wind up getting it. So I'm going to go and say that I think the Pelicans are going to wind up winning that one. On the other
San
side,
Antonio.
I mean,
okay. Pelicans over. I'm writing that down because this may come back to haunt you in the point game.
Yeah, you have a knack to do these sorts of things. Now, on the other side, we got the Pacers and the Nets in a matter of somebody's got to make the 8th slide. Like, that's just how that feels. I'll take the Pacers because whoever it is going to wind up getting devoured. I'm not staking my reputation on the logic about which team is going to get slaughtered by the Hawks.
Yeah, I think Anthony Davis has been incredibly underrated this season, a legitimate MVP contender who's been lost because he plays in New Orleans. But I think art and commerce in general sense means that the Thunder are going to make the playoffs. I think seeing, by the way, the NBA would want, in fact, Steph Curry versus Russell Westbrook in the first round of that playoffs, and I think they'll get there. I also think, by the way, I live in Brooklyn, right? Nobody is excited for the Nets. Nobody is excited for the Nets. The Pacers, and at least the return of Paul George, that offers something of a narrative going into that series. Otherwise, the Nets are very,
Okay, Pablo took this to an interesting place because he thinks OKC over New Orleans is what the NBA wants. You want to address that, Bob, as well as your picks?
No, I won't go there. I don't want to get involved in that discussion at all. No, seriously. I'm just not inclined to do that.
Okay, that's fine. You're prerogative.
I mean, Anthony Davis versus Russell Westbrook, yeah, they probably want Westbrook, okay, but I'm not going to go there. I cast a shaky vote for the Pelicans, but I also cast an emphatic negative against the Brooklyn Nets, who have canine tendencies, and who I think will go full bow wow tonight, and that's the end of that.
All right, well, I guess, Adonde, you're going to have to take a risk here if you're going to decide to get in the head of Commissioner Silver and decide who the NBA wants, but who you got in the games.
If I were the league, I would want Anthony Davis just to have a fresh face and to help support that market, which you've invested so much in New Orleans. So I'd want them in the playoffs, and I'd want Brooklyn too, just because, you know, they're starting to slip a little bit. This is the first time since the rebranding that their jerseys have not been among the top sellers in the league. So I think you need to kind of keep that market vitalized, you know, not revitalize it, but just keep it vitalized. And who will get in? I think the Pelicans lose because the Spurs do have something to play for. I'm not sure they can lose even if they tried. That's how much they're locked in right now.
Really?
And I think the double overtime game for the Pacers last night will cost them. They'll lose and Brooklyn gets
Well,
it.
Monty Jones, dare you get in the head of Adam Silver? What does the NBA want to happen here?
I don't think the NBA can lose with this one, to be perfectly honest. I think if you were going that route, though, it would be better to have Anthony Davis. There's more gain from introducing him to America than bringing Russell Westbrook out there just to get sacrificed in the first round.
Pacers or Nets are going to have to get the Hawks in round one, who have issues of their own. Pablo is out, of course. He's also out there saying the NYPD caused his season-ending injury, and that is an entirely different situation altogether than any NBA teams had to handle going into the playoffs. Pablo, how big of a deal do you think this is on and off the court?
Well, on the court, it's actually pretty meaningful. Their rotation depth on the wing especially is going to get thinner. He's known as a defensive guy. He's a guy who leads top 5, I believe, in rebounds as well. But off the court, that's where this is going to get really interesting because, you know, an NBA player getting hurt, getting in trouble at 4 a.m. outside a nightclub, you usually have no public sympathy for that. But now you have a couple of very 2015 things. You have the video, which has been leaked to TMZ, of the baton being used by the police against Thabo Sefolosha in some fashion. And you have the police in 2015 with a black person, another element of the society around us coming in and invading the NBA. This is several hot-button issues that is only going to be a bigger and bigger controversy as the weeks goes on.
Bob Ryan, the deal it is on and off the court?
I think it's significant on. I don't think it's the crucial, but I think that their depth was part of their calling card en route to the 60 wins. His defensive prowess is well known. His efficiency is one of the great ones in the league. He will be missed. But I do think it's a much bigger story off for the reasons that Pablo cited. This is part of a major hot-button issue. And I agree, it's completely incomprehensible to me how this thing all shaped up, how this thing materialized, what exactly they did to break his leg. All kinds of conflicting testimony and allegations already. We're nowhere near siphoning it all out, but I do think it's a bigger story off.
Jay?
Yeah, this all ties into that, this is what we've been talking about narrative that Pablo alluded to, and I think that's been the story behind a lot of these videos. And this gets to when you saw these NBA players with the I Can't Breathe t-shirts and people were wondering why they were getting involved when this wasn't something that allegedly involved them. Well, apparently it does now, that the excessive use of force by the police can and does affect people regardless of their wealth, regardless of their class. This is an issue, and you're seeing it here once again because of the video. So this is why the NBA players were concerned, because they felt this is something that could have happened to them in their youth and can still happen to them. You know, there's nothing that their NBA status does to protect them against it.
Monty Jones.
Look, this is a big story on the floor, certainly because of efficiency numbers. On, off, Sefolosha makes every player on the roster better, basically. But off the court, it matters as much, really, as we media decide to make this matter, because we haven't done nearly enough with this story, given what it is. And if we're going to be honest, we watch people die on videotapes, and it doesn't seem to be changing that much. So I don't know how big this truly will be off the floor.
Jones 8, Torrey 7, Adonde 6, Ryan leads the way with 9. We're taking a break right there. Buy or sell is going to be next. And coming up, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help them God. Stick around.
yourself.
Oh, Pierce. Oh, baby. Full disclosure. Before the horn yesterday, Jackie Mack told us she had talked to Pierce and ba-boom. And she was right. There it was. Your moment of scorched earth, facial rearranging truth. Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo, John Wall, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter, the Nets, the Raptors, the Hawks, Millennials, Soda, all in his crosshairs here. Adonde, what are you buying? What are you selling?
Well, I'm selling that he did go scorched earth. It's kind of like that Kendrick Lamar verse where people went, oh, he went all in, and he did have some good things to say. But if you're going to say all that stuff about all those people, you can't only play 18 minutes and not have any field goals in a double overtime game that night.
Okay, so this one game means he can't stay at this particular day? Well, Buddy Jones, how about you?
Well, like I say, I didn't find most of what he said to be that inflammatory, Dale. It was the ether that make your soul burn slow for Darren Williams. Like, he just basically said that the G is not in you. Now, the one part that I absolutely have to sell here, though, is he's talking about if my prime was with LeBron's prime, how many championships would he have? What are you talking about? You couldn't beat the other dudes when they were in their primes. Now, you're going to be the LeBron stopper?
Okay, so that, Jay, is what you can do. You can go back to his entire career, not just one night. Go ahead, Pablo Torre.
I would say that Paul Pierce is clearly very good at this particular style of leadership. It's vocal, it's unsparing, it's kind of old school, right? But what I will sell in defense of the guys who he did incinerate in this sort of monologue, there are other ways of leadership too, right? There are other ways to lead without sort of taking a flamethrower to everybody. Pierce is very good at this one, but let's not make it seem like that's the only way to lead in the NBA.
Bob Ryan, how did you read this?
I'd love to know the chronology of the interview. So in other words, that he just couldn't, once he got on a roll, he just couldn't stop. I don't know. That's what would account for the comments about his teammates, okay? But the provocative comments about the Nets, isn't that what we all suspected?
Yeah, potentially. Who got burned most here, though? I mean, it's got to be Darren Williams, right?
Darren Williams.
It's got to be Darren Williams.
Yeah.
I want to get into those hyperbaric chambers he's talking about, though. That might be an investment I'd like to make. Buy or sell, too. Your dramatic, lucky 7th seed in the East, Boston Celtics, Bob Ryan. Last night over the Raptors, which means for the next week-ish, the Cavaliers. But how do you think the Celtics can hang with Cleveland?
I don't think they can really hang. They might win a game. Maybe that's going to wind up happening. But I do think we have questions to ask about Cleveland and how well they're going to hold this together with a lot of guys who haven't been in the playoffs before. But Boston, Brad Stevens, okay, we found a college coach who can do this NBA thing, huh? Bet you didn't think it would be him.
Brad Stevens is fantastic, but you also know that the NBA's regular season is too long when you're asking questions like, is the sub-500 Eastern Conference 8 seed going to challenge LeBron James in the playoffs?
Well,
the answer is absolutely no.
Show some respect. Well, Bob, you know their record since February. They're just right behind Cleveland in the Eastern Conference as far as wins. Can they hang with them?
4th most wins in the league after the All-Star game. If they win one game, it justifies to vindicate the season. If they win 2, they get a parade. If they win the series, they get Time Magazine Men of the Year.
Okay, so you don't think that's possible, but can they win 2 games? Can they get that parade you just offered them?
They got about a 10% chance of getting it back to Boston.
Okay, how about you, Adonde?
Bob, how low have the standards dropped in Boston? We're talking about parades for winning 1 first-round playoff game.
2.
Next, you're going to start lowering the banners. Come on, Bob. Let's hold them to higher standards there in Boston. Maybe they can get a game only because so many of the Cavaliers are going through this for the first time as well. But, you know, can this group of playoff novices in Boston beat Cleveland? No.
Celtics did beat them twice this week. See what happens. Buy or sell 3?
No.
Chris Paul and Blake Griffin last night talking it out on the court. The game broadcast did not get video of it, but widely reported. And after the game, Doc Rivers said, you need stuff like that. Stuff shouldn't go unsaid. It's a sign the group has grown. Pablo, buy or sell Doc liking it?
I buy that concept. Doc Rivers is the best in the NBA at spinning stuff like this, I grant you. But with stomach gas and NBA arguments, better out than in. That is the general principle. Get that stuff out of the air, clear it, and move on.
Bob Ryan, it's good to get it out.
I love Doc, but I'm selling this one. I think it's desperation. It's this late in the year, entering the playoffs. They got 56 wins, and they still have turmoil.
Jay?
I'm with Bob. You have to sell it. Doc says that this group is really growing. I think they've grown tired of Chris Paul dominating the ball. What set this off, in my opinion, watching the game was that Chris Paul got the ball to Blake Griffin with only 2 seconds left on the shot clock and a man guarding him, and Blake didn't really appreciate being put in that situation. So this is something they're going to have to work out going forward in the playoffs.
Jones.
Look, I'm with Bob and Pablo. It's good to get it out, but that assumes that it actually got out. When you saw that clip, it didn't look like it got out. It looked like Chris Paul hollered at Blake Griffin, then walked away. That's not getting it out. I don't know how productive that winds up being. That just makes you hate the little dude even more.
Oh, Bomani, little dude, we don't need to do that on this program right here.
What do you mean? I mean, like, okay.
Jones and Donde and Ryan are going to be in the lightning round. Pablo, you're the next to go, or the first to go, I should say. What's the last word?
You know, 5'10" is average in this country. Chris Paul, I'm with you, man. Like, if you're around 6 feet, that's totally not little.
All right, but we got enough of Pablo there. Coming up is the lightning round. Yasiel Puig thinking he's going to nick the bat flip. Good call, bad call? Find out next. Jones 21 and Donde 15, Ryan 14. It's the lightning round. Lightning number one, level of concern for the supposed strong arm, supposed defensively competent, supposed offensively robust, so they did score a lot of runs today, supposed best team in the NL East, Washington Nationals, Donde.
High level of concern. This group apparently doesn't respond well to everyone picking them to succeed. And manager Matt Williams saying it's the same thing every time. Well, then maybe you should change things up. Switch up the lineup, do something different.
Hey, come on, fellas. You saw the guy out there in the outfield. Catching the fly ball is a lot harder than it looks on television, baby. Plus, there's this other part. As bad as things are going right now, it's not like they got 150 games to get it straight or anything like that, right?
The Monday and Tuesday games were so unspeakably ugly, they have to be classified as aberrations. They can't be that bad. That's what
Defensively, okay. So you're not worried. You know, Donnie, you said everyone's picking them. They're picking themselves. That's what the problem is with these Nationals. Why nobody brought that one up, I don't know. Lightning 2. Yasiel Puig saying he wants to cut down on his bat flips. Bomani, you like this?
Hell no, I don't like this. I hate this, in fact. I feel like all you lames have won. We're taking the fun out of baseball. No more celebrating and enjoying yourself when you do something good. That's going to make the world a better place. I wanted somebody to try to fight him to make him stop it, and maybe it changed. That would have been entertaining.
I live with Big Papi, and I always endorsed the Sammy Hop back when he spoke English to us. So how can I be hypocritical and dismiss Puig? It's okay with me.
Okay. I'm not going to touch that. Don, they go ahead.
Absolutely. Don't let the Grouches win, take all the fun out of the game. Do not go gently into that good night. Flip, flip against the dying of the light.
That was surprisingly poetic from Madonna. I guess that'll get you a point. Bob Ryan, you're the next to go, I can say. What's the last word?
I want to get a book of Adonde poems. I mean, that sounds very, promising.
Adonde and Jones, that's our showdown. Straight ahead. Life. Now that we live in a post-77 straight world. Honestly, watching this, what were you thinking when Steph Curry had 77 straight, guys? Anyone? Donde, Jones. 2 quick showdowns, 30 seconds of FaceTime to the winner. Good luck to you both. Showdown 1. Cleveland's new uniforms. Revealed with depth aplomb. Or just plum.
What's wrong?
Donde, you good with all this?
No, I mean, that reveal looked so Charlie Brown, didn't it? With all them struggling to get the capes off. But also, that Cleveland looks very Pop Warner-y.
No, I'm not good with it. Look, I don't have a problem with it saying Cleveland on the front. They're doing the best they can with the colors that they've been given. However, if we're starting with Cleveland on the front, I feel like this is a baby step into sponsored uniforms. Just you watch. This is the beginning of just you watch.
What would be so wrong with that? You think you like Cleveland's helmet? We're sticking with the helmet as is? Would you prefer a logo on it? I kind of like the tradition of not having it.
Their logo is a logoless helmet, man. Get a logo.
No, I kind of like the tradition. We'll give the point to Bomani then. Showdown 2, finally, Steph Curry. You guys can make this an around-the-horn investigation if you want, because you don't have access to the full video. But how can you show 77 straight? 77 straight threes, 94 out of 100 in practice. Klay Thompson said he couldn't believe it. His own record is 36. 77 straight makes you think what, Bomani Jones?
Makes me think that Klay Thompson is a hater. Like somehow Klay Thompson thinks that just because he can only make 36, there's no way anybody could double his score. Well, it looks to me like somebody had. And if I'm Steph Curry, I don't pass the ball to Klay Thompson anymore. Try to beat 77 in a row when you don't get the ball.
Hey, you're trying to foster this rivalry. They're getting ready for the playoffs, Bo. It should be harmonious. And I think only 77, that's my reaction. I've been in that gym plenty of times watching Steph Curry shoot after practice. I've yet to see him miss. So I think he's 1,000 straight.
But, Adonde, you couldn't score 77 points in the show if you got a 60-point bonus for getting a game right. Bomani Jones is getting the FaceTime.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I need to pass some word out to some of these dudes that haven't been raised properly. You seen this thing? These coaches in college football seem to like to try to recruit players by trying to holler at their girlfriends. Michigan had a situation like that. Now there's a recruit where his girlfriend is saying that Arkansas has sent her 15 letters. 15 letters so far to try to use her to get the boyfriend to come to Arkansas. You are never going to endear yourself to a guy like me by talking to my girlfriend when I'm not around. And how are you helping a high school student by suggesting his girlfriend go to the same college as him? Everybody knows that works out terribly every single time.
If there was one panelist that would use that story for a FaceTime, it would be Bomani Jones. Thanks, Bo. That's good, folks. On a 23.5-hour break. We'll see you tomorrow.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
right through the World Series.
For the third time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio. Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals.
That one is gone.
The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.